Everybody, welcome all Greg Rockwells and non-Greg Rockwells. They're really excited to have you all. This is our ACT event. This is Coming Home to Where, talking about what happens when people come home from incarceration. What's it like when you move into a house in a neighborhood where everybody knows your status? What are the expectations and reality for people coming home, and also for the people in the community who are welcoming their new neighbors, and just what's the tension between there. So we have a really powerful discussion. I'm not going to take much longer. Let me introduce our moderator, and then Marty, I'll ask you to introduce everybody else. So this is Marty Mellett. Hello, Marty, can you wave? Marty is, I'm going to get it wrong again, Vice President of External Affairs at Jubilee Housing. Marty, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? And
well, thanks, Greg. Thanks for everyone joining us this afternoon. So yeah, my name is Marty Mellett, Vice President for External Affairs for Jubilee Housing. We are a nonprofit housing developer, owner, and manager of housing, affordable housing in the Adams Morgan Columbia Heights neighborhood for 50 years. We think about our work as creating justice housing, and we're calling it justice housing, which is deep affordability. So about 60% of our units are for people at 30% of the median family income, so some of the lowest income in the city, in a healthy neighborhood with stores, transportation, and support services designed to help our residents thrive. Services like affordable daycare and out-of-school time care, workforce support, and family financial literacy. Some services we offer ourselves, and others are provided through local partnerships and health centers, job training programs, and daycare centers. Our newest initiative, which we're going to talk about this afternoon, 10 years old now, is our reentry housing initiative. And my job is to represent and advocate for the interests of Jubilee residents and with external stakeholders, primarily with elected and appointed officials in DC with regard to legislation, budgets, and regulations. So that's my job. I've been with Jubilee for about 10 years, and I've been in the community development field for about 25 years. So we have a good couple of panelists. I'm going to start with, let's see, who am I starting with here? Keisha. Keisha, do you want to talk a little bit about, you've got a real estate firm. You want to talk a little bit about who you are and how you fit in here?
Hello, everyone. My name is Keisha Streeter-Clark. I'm a real estate broker and owner of DC Urban Living. I've been serving the DC community and beyond for 16 years, and I'm happy to speak with you all today about this very important topic.
And I just lost my my screen here. Hang on a second. There it is, back again. And then we have Karen. Let's see, Karen. I can't even see you on this one. There you are. Karen Collins. Do you want to share a little bit about who you are and what you're doing here?
Yes, my name is Karen Collins. I work for Community Family Life Services. I am a resident monitor in a resident manager in one of their homes, and I am a returning citizen.
Welcome, welcome. And Shannon, I'm going to give you the last slide here. Tell us a little bit about who you are and then what you bring to our discussion this afternoon.
My name is Shannon Battle. I'm the Advocate and Leadership Development Specialist for Free Minds Book Club and Workshop, and I'm a returning citizen.
You want to just say a minute about what Free Minds is? Because a lot of folks aren't going to know what that is. And Karen, I'm going to come back to you to talk about CFLS in a minute, but let's start. Go ahead, Shannon.
Free Minds Book Club Workshop is a local nonprofit based in DC. We provide services for those our members, which is over 1,000 that's incarcerated and returning citizens. And we focus on just trying to give members an outlet, a creative outlet through poetry, reading and writing, so they can, do their time better. And a lot of times what we do is we have write nights or we have OTSPs where we throw events that these poems are presented to volunteers. We encourage the volunteers to give feedback on these poems, because when you do that and we send these poems back into these institutions, it gives these guys and women a lot of encouragement and show them that that our community care. And it was one of the things that, you know, a lot of my peers and myself was encouraged by organizations like Free Minds that, you know, not only providing and assisting those of us that's incarcerated, but providing and assisting us in transitioning back to society. They have a reentry services where we have several reentry coaches that do your resume, apply for your job. In fact, every job that I have so far, I probably been home 2 years or 4 months, and I probably had at least 6 jobs. And my reentry coach actually did my application for every job that I have, including the one I'm currently employed by. So yeah, that's just a little bit about.
That's good. That's helpful because I think a lot of folks don't know, have not heard of Free Minds. Karen, I'm going to come back to you. Just say a little bit more about CFLS. What's the organization? What's it doing, and how does it work in the reentry space?
Okay, again, I work for Community Family Life Services. We have been around, I believe, since 1968. And what we are currently doing is we're helping women re-enter the society that are coming out of the penal system. We go inside of the prisons, the halfway houses, the jails. We talk to the women. We tell them what we provide. We provide housing that these women don't have to pay for. We provide employment services. We provide resume writing. We help women with getting all the documentation that they need when they come out, as far as birth certificates, social security cards, identification. We help them get jobs, as I stated before. We help them find permanent housing once they leave our housing. And if they're not ready to be on their own, we find other programs within our program that these ladies can stay at. We provide all sorts of support, counseling, drug addiction prevention. Our goal is to help these women get back on their feet, to get established, and to be able to maintain and become productive parts of society, productive people of society.
Thanks, Karen. We appreciate you sharing a little bit of that. So before we begin, we're going to do a little survey in a minute, but let me just show, just to give a couple of statistics, just to set the context for our discussion this afternoon. So returning home, between 2017 and 2019, about 13,000 residents were released annually, including about 10,000 from the Department of Corrections, which is our local jail, and about 1,600 from the Bureau of Prisons, returning home from serving felony sentences. I think most of us know or may not know that DC does not have a long-term prison. We lost that years ago when the city was close into bankruptcy. And so that was taken away. And if you are convicted of a felony in the district, you get sent to the Bureau of Prisons anywhere in the country where a bed is available. Housing opportunities for returning citizens are very limited. A few organizations like CFLS, like Jubilee Housing, and a few others have dedicated housing and support services for returning citizens. You know, I think there's probably less than 150 in the city. Over the past 2 years, DC has approved, a little bit less than 50 rental subsidies dedicated to returning citizens. Returning citizens compete with all other public housing subsidies, and there just isn't enough. And then just one other fact, DC has one halfway house for women, and we do not have any halfway houses for men at this point in time. The men's halfway house, Hope Village, was shut down several years ago. A new contractor got the contract, but has not been successful in siting a new facility, even though they've worked at it for the past couple of years. So if you're a man and you're coming home from serving a felony, you're going to end up in Richmond or in Baltimore to serve your final time. It's pretty challenging to return home to a city if you can't come and live in it. So that's a little bit of the context that we're going to have. So to get started, we want to get a little touch base with our audience here. We're going to do a brief anonymous survey that's going to show up on the screen in a second, and it's going to allow you all just to kind of answer a couple of questions. There'll be 3 questions. Is it going to show up on the screen here, Greg? There are the 3 questions. Have you or anyone in your family or social circle ever been incarcerated? So we just want you to answer these yes or no's. The second one is, do you know if anyone in your neighborhood has been incarcerated? Again, this is simple yes or no. And then the last one, would it make a difference? So let's give it 1 minute. Let everyone go ahead and sign, including me. Oh, I guess not me, because I can't do it. And then in a minute that we're going to get this tabulated and bring up, and then we'll ask some more questions of our panelists.
No, wouldn't make a difference if you did, you know.
So here's our immediate survey. Looks like it's pretty even on have you or anyone in your family been incarcerated? About 55% said yes and 45% said no. Let's see, do you know if anyone, almost the same, has been incarcerated, some half yes, half no. And then I can't read the bottom. Would it make a difference if you did know? And my screen is, let's see if it's showing up here. Oh, it's so about 70% said no, it doesn't make a difference. So why don't we start with you, Keisha? You have your own brokerage firm. You sell real estate for a living. What are people concerned about when they're looking for a home? And how do you see existing neighbors trying to influence who would the new residents coming into the neighborhood, and whether new projects and renovations, and whether some of the answers to these questions would impact some of the work that you see in your real estate work?
So I don't find people trying to choose who comes in and out of neighborhoods. But I do know that what's important to them is what is the surrounding developments that are going on, what kind of community services like rec centers, parks, and what things are available to them. As far as the topic, they will look into that. They will see like what the crime stats are, what type of facilities are in the neighborhoods, and that will decide for some if they will move into those neighborhoods or not.
Okay. Why don't we jump over to our returning citizen community here? So why don't we start with Karen? What were you looking for when you first came in the community, when you're moving into, and what do you think impacts the safety of a community?
When I first came into the community, I was looking for a program that would help me with housing, that would help me with employment, that would still continue to give me some type of structure, that would support me. I find that, well, I can't speak for everybody, but a lot of women come home and they don't have any support because we have burnt our bridges. So when we come home, we're basically on our own. So we need programs, or I needed, a lot of us need programs that will provide us with these things. When I came home, I didn't have a place to live once I left the halfway house. So I sought out different programs to help me with housing. And I found that there are programs in the District of Columbia that could help me. Not only did they help me with housing, but they gave me the support that I needed, and I wasn't judged. It is hard coming back into society, and after you've been gone for a long time, things change. So you're adjusting to being here as opposed to being there, which is a difficult transition for anyone that has been incarcerated. I found that, in the beginning, I thought I didn't still need structure, but I found that I did still need structure, and those programs provided that for me. Since I've been home almost 4 years. I've only been employed with 3 different employers. All of my employment has been doing this type of work until I got to where I wanted to be, which was working with women coming out of the penal system. A lot of people may think that people don't change, but people do change. I'm a prime example of someone that has changed. I did 13 and a half years. I've come home. I've been clean. I've kept a stable job. I've kept housing, and I'm doing what I love doing, helping other people. It is my desire to see more of these programs out here for the women coming out, because this is what makes us better. This is what helps us to survive. This is what gives us encouragement and shows us that we can do this. When you come and you have nothing and no one to turn to, you know, a lot of times you would turn back to the lifestyle that you were living. So
Right.
those are the things that I was looking for. And what was your second question, sir?
Let me jump over to Shannon to kind of continue our conversation, then we'll jump back to Shannon. You want to talk a little bit about the same thing for you, about when you were coming home, what were you looking for in the community?
I was looking for basically the same thing she was looking for, programs that can assist me in obtaining housing and employment. And just like for women, the same thing goes for men. I think collectively, overall, there's just a need for more program, more resources to be geared towards returning citizens, men and women, because it's just not enough. I did 25 years and I've been home almost 2.5 years now. And although I had a strong family support, you know, and I live with my uncle, but you know, I'm basically homeless, because if you're not on I'm not on a lease, you know, so if you're not on a lease, you basically homeless. And I'm looking for housing, you know, been looking for housing, would have loved to have housing within 6 to 12 months. Because like you say, you still need that structure, especially after doing decades in jail. But I think just having the stability of housing is so important to the successful transition of someone like myself, or anyone who has did any time. It is very pivotal. And I just think more resources should be created to create these programs for men and women, because they, like you say, one halfway house for women, there's none for men. And a lot of us, we are burdens on our family. They love us and will take us in, but we still are burdens. And like I said earlier, we are literally still homeless. So at the whim of someone who love you, if they decide, man, they tired of you, you literally homeless. And what are we to do? You know, you sink or swim, and you don't want to go back to what got you in jail. So it's just hard. It's just a hard journey, and we just need more resources for housing.
Right. Yeah, and I just wanted to kind of put a pin in one. Someone asked a question about the difference between a transitional house and a halfway house, and let me just kind of comment on that. That there is a difference here. So a halfway house is part of the carceral system. It's part of the system. It's a locked facility, and with the ability to allow its residents to enter the community for work and family visits, but it's not individual choice. You're required to be there for a period of time. And in many ways, it's run like a prison. But a transitional facility is voluntary for the resident and for the organization that's actually inviting that person in. Both have to agree to the terms of the living. It's just not part of this jail system. It's independent. So I just want to make it clear that there's a differential between those two. So I think we're going to take just a couple minutes and do another survey that I think that we're going to put up in a second here. And it's, let's see, you want to put this up, Greg? This is a survey about concerns with bringing in transitional housing into your neighborhood. So everyone can see this one. If a transitional house would develop your neighborhood, what would be your biggest concern? You got a couple of them: concentration of vulnerable people, inconvenience of construction, lowering property values, noise, drugs, violence, safety for the kids.
And while we're answering the survey, I'll just jump in and say, as you have questions, please type them in the chat or the Q&A. I will make sure to answer them as we go along, and we'll definitely make sure to leave time at the end for you to ask questions to our panelists. Just whatever you're interested in, whatever you want to know, we'll talk about it. And sorry, I realized I left, there's not an NA, so no concerns on this poll. So that's my mistake. If you would have no concerns, just don't answer.
All right, so we have some responses here. Concentration of vulnerable people is got the highest, along with lowering property values. Some about if there was construction, a little bit of concerns about that, some noise, a little bit of drugs, a little bit of concern about violence, and a little bit of safety. So the big one, just concentration in the property value. So that takes us, I think, to Keisha to hear a little bit from you as a realtor. Is this what you hear when you're trying to sell properties in certain neighborhoods, or if you know of developments that are, pertaining to transitional housing? What do you think about this?
So I had the opportunity to reach out to past clients, friends from different wards, and ask these exact questions. How do they feel about the transition homes? How do they feel about the development and all of those things? So those questions were actually answered. Although you're saying about the development, there were many people who were concerned about the development. How would it affect the property value of their homes? And there's not really, I haven't seen any real stats to show what the effect of it is. So I wasn't able to answer to that. Another thing that I wanted to touch on, Martin, was you mentioned, you gave a great definition of the difference between transition homes and halfway houses. A lot of people are confused about that. And I think that's very important that we educate as we move forward with transition homes, that we educate people on what the difference is between all these different homes, because you have transition homes, halfway homes, rehab homes, and people are confused. They think a transition home is a halfway house. So I think that's important in getting the community to buy in to having transition homes in the neighborhoods. And I think that will help developers as well if they're hesitant in developing, or the community is hesitant in allowing because they think it's going to affect development. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. And why don't we jump over to our two returning citizens? Shannon, let's start with you and talk a little bit about, so, well, and when you moved back in with your uncle. So you actually didn't move into a transitional house, but what, when you moved back into a neighborhood, what were you looking for?
Safety. I think safety was my number one concern, coming from my background, as a kid, and seeing a lot of the things that I seen growing up. So safety was my number one concern. I wanted to, enjoy my freedom and be safe, not have to worry about looking over my back, no one doing anything, doing something to me. And I think that was one of my number one priorities, safety and security. That was my number one.
Mm-hmm. Karen, how about you? When you moved, you did move into a transitional house upon leaving jail. What were you looking for in a neighborhood and in a house?
Basically, I was looking for not to be shunned and to be accepted, not to be judged because of my past. When you move into a transitional home in a neighborhood, for the most part, all the neighbors know that it's a transitional home. So when they start seeing these new faces, coming in and out of this transitional house, they already know that you're coming out of the penal system, you know, and a lot of people are not very accepting of people that are coming out of the system because they think that we can't change, that we don't change, that we're the same people that we were when we went in. I really wasn't too concerned about safety issues. I was more concerned about being accepted and not being shunned and not being judged by people, you know, being allowed to come back in the community and be the best that I could be, you know. So that's what I was looking for. And I was only in 2 transitional homes, and each one of them, I felt very, very comfortable. I got what I needed, you know, from them. And I think it's a great thing that the District of Columbia is doing with opening these transitional homes up. I just want to touch on what you and Keisha were speaking about, transitional homes and halfway houses. They label a halfway house as a halfway house because that's just what it is. It's a halfway house. You're halfway in and you're halfway out. In a halfway house, you break a rule or regulation, you get sent back to the prison system. In a transitional house, it doesn't work like that. Transitional houses are not always, they are not only transitional houses in the District of Columbia for people coming out of the penal system. There are other types of transitional houses in the District of Columbia as well. And they are not labeled as halfway houses because that's not what they are. In a transitional house, you have more freedom to come and go. And you don't have to worry about, you know, if I'm late, I'm going back to prison. So a halfway house has the label of being a halfway house because that's just what it is. You're halfway in and you're halfway out. You're still a part of the penal system.
All right. Let's see, and I think, Greg, you want to step in here for a little bit?
Yeah, we can move on to audience questions unless Shannon, Keisha, is there anything else that you want to say?
You know, I agree exactly what Karen was saying. And I think one of the biggest benefits of having someone, a strong support system where you can live with them like myself, you know, is safety. But, you know, I was able to enjoy going out and just walking. You know, I know if, let's say if I'd moved, I was forced to move back in my old environment, my old neighborhood, that would have been an experience every day, you know, because some of the same things are still going on. So I think, and that goes to the mental health and the self-care aspect of transitioning back out here. I think you have to factor in that part, you know, and that's why safety was my number one concern.
Awesome. Yeah, Shannon, can you just talk a little bit more about what it's like to come back and not be in the environment that you left? Because I remember hearing someone speak who was talking about their experience coming home, and they came back and lived in affordable housing, and their ability to come back and walk around and see people just rock around in yoga pants, not worrying about, you know, carrying a weapon, was just really, it was a shock to them. They're like, oh, this is not my experience.
Yeah.
And it was, yeah.
Yeah, it can, like, going back in that same environment, you know, it can be traumatizing. That's why I spoke of the mental health aspect of it, because that same environment might have been that same environment where your crime happened. And you also, I mean, not just your crime, but I mean, stuff that happened to you, you know. So let's say you've been shot at, you know, in that environment. So, you know, coming home 20 years later and going to that same environment, you don't forget those things. You know, it'd be more scarier because you don't know what's going on. So you trying to figure out the neighborhood, you know, the people in the neighborhood. And to me, that's more scarier, you know, because you don't know exactly what's going on. And I know myself personally, I probably wouldn't go outside, because if I don't know what's going on, I'm gonna kind of be scared, you know what I mean? Because I'm aware that, okay, it's 20 years later, but it's still neighborhood beefs going on. Because more than likely, you're gonna still be seeing or hearing shots. So going back into that same environment, for some people it can be traumatizing. And I'm just blessed that I wasn't one of those people that had to experience that situation.
Yeah. Karen, what about you? What kind of opportunity did you have coming back to a transitional home with CFLS that you wouldn't have had if you were just on your own?
One of the opportunities I wouldn't have had, that I wouldn't have had if I was on my own, I wouldn't have had housing. With CFLS, they provided me with housing and I didn't have to pay rent or anything like that until I got on my feet. And once I got a job, you know, I went through their financial literacy program and they still helped me with my rent. So I was able to save money. So that's one of the really big barriers that I had was housing when I came home, because all of my family lives on the other side and my parole is over here. And I didn't want to be in Virginia for my own personal reasons. I just felt like parole would be harder there than it is here in the District of Columbia. And some of these places, these transitional houses that I have, the 2 transitional houses that I lived in, were in fact in the neighborhoods that I grew up in. However, I didn't worry because I'm not the person that I was back then. So and I still see people that I knew back then that I was out there doing things with. I speak and I keep it moving because I'm not in that place anymore. I don't forget where I come from, but I also remember where I don't want to go back to. So where it's a little different for me than it has been for Shannon, I think my biggest thing is that I keep in mind that those orange jumpsuits, they're one size fits all, and they will never fit me again. So I stay focused on that, and I still go through some of the same neighborhoods that I grew up in, that I did some of the stuff I was in, but I go through them because I'm hoping to find some woman that's going through the same thing that I have went through, that I'm able to help, that I'm able to direct in the right direction. I do what I do because I want the women to see you can go in and you can do God knows how much time, and you still can come out and prosper and be a better person. I'm 57 today, and I've been in and out of the penal system since I was 12, and that's the majority of my life. But when I look back now on that, and I look at me now, would I change anything? And it's sad to say that I wouldn't, but I wouldn't, because it made me who I am today. Had I not went through those things, I wouldn't be the person I am today. I probably wouldn't be doing this type of work. I probably wouldn't have such a passion, for this type of work. So
Love it, Karen. Awesome. Thank you. Yes. We have a bunch of questions already for you guys. Shannon, I saw you raise your hand. Did you have something you want to add in real quick?
Yeah, I'm gonna be real quick in regard, because I was just thinking about also some of the things you're subjected to when you move back into that same environment. You're gonna be subjected to some of the old friendships. I know in my neighborhood, a lot of the guys who I grew up with, they was on those same corners 25 years later. And like she said, although you change, a lot of other people don't change. And you always have to remember that. And I would like to mentor a lot of the youth, even the men, and hopes that through my example, I can show them that it's a better and a different way. But I think I have to get myself together first before I can go back, and make that difference in a way where I feel safe,
Yeah. So our first question up, and Shannon and Karen, maybe you can talk to this. For the people that coming home, for your peers coming home, do you know what their experiences are like as they try to get housing that is not supported by any programs or organizations? So just someone who's completely on their own. Do you have any stories that you've heard of people trying to figure it out?
I I'll try to be quick. Yeah, I got a lot of like many friends. I came home under the Incarceration Reduction Amendment Act era, juvenile lifers, and it's like 70, 80 guys out now. And we all encountering the same issues. I think out of those 70, 80 guys, maybe 30%, maybe have their own housing right now. And we all encountering the same thing. It starts with employment, and having that stability of income, and building your credit, your history of credit. And then just having the ability to go out and apply for those housing opportunities, and which can be a task in itself, because it's an application process that most of us would struggle with. So
Shannon, have you seen anyone just like end up in shelter because there's nowhere else that they can go?
yes, I've seen not shelter, but transitional housing, where they are being challenged by the authorities in that housing. And it's a situation where they like, man, it's a damn if you do, damn if you don't. And a lot of these guys don't want to be in that situation, but they don't want to be where they just come from. And it's like, man, they want to walk out of here, but when they walk out of here, they don't have nowhere to go. They got to go to the shelter. So I know a couple of peers that's in bad situations in transitional housing, and halfway housing, both.
Yeah. So there's programs that are very specific, right? Like there's sober programs or substance abuse programs, which might not be the right fit for everybody. But if your main concern is housing, you'll take any kind of housing you can get, right?
Yes.
Cool. Here's the second one. Shannon and Karen, maybe we'll go with Karen first. What was the most unexpected change you saw when you came home that no one told you about?
Go ahead, Ms. Karen.
For me, DC was totally different. I grew up, I'm a Washingtonian, I grew up here, and I used to get lost all the time when I first came home. They built it up so much, it was just, DC was foreign to me when I first came home. And that was really scary. It was really scary because I didn't know my way around. And I had been locked up so long that I had forgot that you're supposed to look both ways when you step in the street, or wait for the light. And I would just step out there, and almost got hit a couple of times. Yeah. And another scary thing for me was trying to get help, mental health help, because you get very depressed when you first come home, because there are a lot of barriers for us. And I was reaching out for help, and I couldn't, everybody just kept sending me to all these different places. And it really put me in a bad space. It was a really rough time. But after going to 5 or 6 places and having to reach out to see SOSA, I was finally able to get the help that I needed. And I had no idea that it was so hard for people to get mental health help out here, therapy and things of that nature. And if you need medication, it is really difficult when you first come home.
Yeah. Shannon, this is a great question for you. Have you experienced discrimination in your housing journey? So you might want to talk about like the act that just passed in trying to buy your house.
I haven't really applied for any housing, but like over the last month, I've been considering actively really considering buying a house. My goal is to buy one within the next 2 to 3 months. And I'm kind of scared because I just encountered a situation where I'm about to get off probation, but the government asked that I register as a gun offender, a law that didn't even apply to me when I got locked up in 1993. And the judge agreed. So, and it's kind of making me speed my process up because I don't know how this gun registry will affect me going for a loan. I got good credit, and I almost got a loan just like a couple of weeks ago, but I said I might be rushing because I know that I got to eventually, I got to abide by this judge's order and go register as a gun offender. and I don't know how it's going to negatively impact me. But it's my first time, so I'm being patient. You know what I mean? Because I live with my uncle, and he's giving me time. You know, although I pay rent, he's giving me the time, and he's showing me, you know, the necessary things that's needed to be a homeowner. But I never, you know what I mean, I haven't had no experience with applying, so I can't answer it. I have friends that have, and a lot of them, like I say, about 20-30% of us have housing, and a lot of them, as long as you got good credit, you know, and stable job, and you can get housing. But there also are a lot of criteria that kind of put you in the box, you know. So let's say you make 50,000. I mean, the criteria might be you need to make 40,000. And then it might be another criteria that says something else. And you know, and it's kind of put you in the box for someone that did time like we did. I know a lot of most of my peers who have housing, they had to go through these criteria where like I said, if they make 50,000, they might tell them you make too much. You know what I mean? Or you make
Right.
40,000, you don't make enough. And there's so many different criteria and red tape that you have to go through. It's just crazy, and you shouldn't have to go through that type of stuff.
Yeah, and some of this stuff is criteria that they let to be subjective, so they can say yes or no once maybe a background check comes through.
Right.
Like Ms. Karen, I think you wanted to say something.
Yes, as far as your question was concerned, I have experienced that. This is what led me to CFLS. When I came out of the first program that I was in, I had 2 full-time jobs, had saved up plenty of money. Everywhere I applied, once they did the background check, it was a done deal. Other than places in areas that I did not want to live, you know, places that I didn't feel was conducive to what I was trying to do. Those were the places I didn't want to live, and those were the places that was giving me the apartments. So that's when I saw out CFLS. Not only does our background check mess us up, the fact that we don't have any rental history also will mess us up. So there are barriers with us when it comes to us trying to get apartments, houses, or whatever type of housing we're trying to get. And going through these programs gives us some of this stuff. Like CFLS has a legal team. They will help you with your background. As far as the rental history, you go to one of these programs and you stay for however long it is you're supposed to stay. Now you got some rental history to put on there. So, but we do have, there are big barriers for us, very big barriers.
Thanks, Karen. Let's throw one to Marty. Marty, we have a question about housing first. Can the city model their housing first for returning citizens? Housing first, as you know, means there are no conditions that have to be met before the person moves in.
Right. So, and we do have a housing first model in the District of Columbia, and it has been fairly successful, you know, in many ways. You know, one of the challenges with the way we do housing first in the district is that, you know, to get high enough up to get a housing choice voucher, which is the key piece here. I mean, you can have, you need, you know, in our city that's completely unaffordable for anyone earning under 75,000 a year. You need some kind of public subsidy or some kind of housing that's publicly supported. So that's the basic starting point. The way that our current system works is that if you have been housed in a transitional housing or in jail, you don't score high enough on the particular method that they use to decide who gets a housing choice voucher, or what we call a local rent supplement, which is our local funding source for rental housing. And so you can't, so you could be in jail for 30 years, you come out, that's, you know, that time in jail is considered housed, so you don't score high enough. So that's one of the challenges. It's not, and it's not that our system is against returning citizens per se. It's just that the way it's set up is that you're just not going to score high enough, and there aren't enough local rent supplement vouchers to go around. So you end up just, so that we have to change that to kind of help, so that, to ensure that returning citizens aren't kind of put down or can't compete with what it, you know, with the type of vouchers that are available.
Yeah.
So
Thank you. Keisha, we had another question I think you'd be good for. What, if any, factors should influence where new transitional housing is built? Is it access to programs? Is it transportation? What are some important factors to consider?
So I think access to the services that they need. There was a comment made that someone felt that they don't think it serves existing community or returning citizens to be housed in a community that is suffering from underdevelopment of food deserts, increased crime, and things like that. So that's like a perfect example of what people are saying. People are also saying like they don't mind transitional homes, but they would not want more than 1 to 2 in the community and, kind of spread out. So, I think people don't mind them. They just want them in small groups and they want them spread out and they don't want them concentrated in one ward or in one neighborhood. Does that answer your question? Greg?
Yeah, I will also jump in on that one, Greg, since this is what we do.
Mhm.
For us, it's, the public transportation access is an important piece of the pie because a lot of folks coming on just aren't going to have a car as a start. So having access to transportation to get to where you need to get to is important. And we would argue that, living in a healthy neighborhood is important. And so we develop housing in the Adams Morgan Columbia Heights neighborhood that, in many ways is completely gentrified. So it would be unaffordable for not just returning citizens, but for a lot of folks. But it's a good, healthy neighborhood. It's got schools, and it's got grocery stores, it's got transportation. So those are factors. And then the last piece is access to the kind of support services that are needed. In a private development, we call them amenities, right, Keisha? So you got a roof on the you got a pool on the roof, and you got all kinds. You got a dog park out front. But for some folks, they need access to good job training. They get access to health centers that are available and that are close by and that are reasonable and affordable. It's important to have those services available close by so that folks, as they move towards transition, are dealing with these issues one at a time and are getting the kind of the help they need to stabilize.
Yes, I agree. I think accessibility is actually key. I do want to touch on the mental health. I think that if people are in these transition homes, halfway houses, that mental health help should be immediately available. There's no reason why you would not think that there would be some sort of PTSD. So I think that's key. And I know that that's a concern for people who have transition homes in their community, or people are asking them, do you mind if we put it in their community? They want to know, what is the access that these returning citizens have to these programs? Is it just a home? What are you providing in home? Not like they have to leave, like what type of, like who's in the house helping them daily with this transition? That makes people in the communities more comfortable. Again, education is key, letting people know like everything that's going on and how when you get the community to buy in, that's what you need. And giving them the education and letting them know what you're doing is very important.
Yeah. All right, y'all, there are a lot of questions. I'm really sorry that we're not gonna be able to get to all of them because they're all really good questions. And if this could be like a 2-hour presentation, we could get to some of them. So let's just do one more because I think it gets to a lot of the things that Keisha and Marty are talking about right now. From Toya, she's asking, why is the housing unaffordable? What if you can build something specifically with returning citizens in mind? Just because they don't have the financial resources doesn't mean they should be housed in low-income areas where they can't grow. So what is driving these housing costs? Why can't we just make affordable housing?
The basic one is we live in a capitalist society and the market is free. And right now the district in Columbia is just off the charts, right, Keisha? It just keeps going up and up and up, and housing costs are going higher than people's income. That's the basic start. So then the question is there a role for government to try to balance the market? That's the question that we're asking, to our politicians and to ourselves. Jubilee would answer is that the government has a role in making sure that there's some amount of affordability. And the only way you do that is you put some money against the market. And, so we would not be able to do what we do to provide the kind of housing in Adams Morgan without public financing. It's just simple as that. Whether it's capital to buy properties and try to keep them affordable, as well as rental subsidies that allow to keep the rent low enough so that people who are coming out and earning $15 an hour could never hit the market at $15 an hour. And we can subsidize that so they can stay in the neighborhood and not spend all of their money on housing costs.
Yes, I agree. I think the government has to figure out a way to help our returning citizens. Not just, there is a housing issue, period, with gentrification and taxes and the market is what it is. There has to be a more concerted effort to provide housing to our community, to our citizens, not just ones coming in transition, but just overall. And I'm finding, because we do property management as well, that the voucher system and all these systems that are in place supposedly are going to help. It's very cumbersome. It's not a very easy process. It's just hard for them. And if you are illiterate or you don't have, the brain you just can't figure it out. It can be very daunting to not only returning citizens, but anyone who is of a lower income that needs housing.
Yeah. All right. We are running out of time and we got to talk about what can we do? What are the next steps? So first thing, the thing that I think we all want to drive home is be a YIMBY. Yes, in my backyard. If you live in Adams Morgan, if you live in a neighborhood where a transitional home is being planned, please say yes. There are some really loud negative voices out there who will make things not happen because they are persistent and loud, even if they aren't the majority opinion. Thrive and CFLS right now are trying to build a transitional home. And we have a home, it's zoned for 6. We want to upzone it to 12, but because of some really loud voices, it might not happen. And we need more strong yes voices in the neighborhood saying that, no, this is great. We want this. We want to welcome back people who are really looking to start their lives over in the right way. Second thing you should do. This webinar is being put on by the coalition, A Chance to Thrive. I neglected to say that in the beginning, but I'm going to say it now. A Chance to Thrive is a bunch of organizations. We are working together to end the stigma of incarceration for people who are coming home. Go to our website, achancetothrive.com, sign up, be a part of our movement, join our mailing list, and let's figure out ways that we can help increase the success for people who are coming home. Give everybody a real chance to thrive. Third thing, make your voices and your values heard. Everyone's here because we believe that people coming home deserve just as much a chance to thrive as everybody else. We need to say that loud, and we need to say that often in all the forums that we can. If you see people on Nextdoor who are saying not nice things about people coming home or projects being planned or greater affordable housing or greater density, please be a voice for justice. Please be a voice for equality, making sure that these things can happen. So let's talk about, those are general things. Be a YIMBY, make your voices and values heard, get involved. Let's talk specifics. Marty, what does Jubilee have going on right now that people could say yes to?
So we're developing 2 projects on Ontario Road in Adams Morgan, and it'll be for immediate housing for returning citizens, 18 units, and then 27 of the 54 of the permanent will be for returning citizens dedicated as well. This is an as of right development. So what's we think is important is that what you just said, Greg, is to weigh in. So if you live in the neighborhood, the ANC is going to be having meetings. Join the meetings. Be a voice that says this is important. We will get some opposition. We just know that. We're getting it now. But there's also some people that really support it. And I think having neighbors say this is important is valuable. I think also just being in contact with your council members in other parts of the city. I think council members often hear, as Greg said, there's loud voices that say, we don't want you in my neighborhood. And I think it's important to have voices that say, we want to welcome people. We recognize that, we've got this train from slavery to Jim Crow to mass incarceration. We've got to make some changes if we're going to welcome people home. Policy got us where we're at. Policy can make a difference. So I think weighing in on policy matters can make a difference in our city.
Yeah. For our Ben, and I also neglected to say this. I neglected to say a lot of things. So I'm with Thrive DC. We're a one-stop shop for people in crisis, people with and without homes. We do everything from meals, showers, and laundry to job training, life skills for people coming home, and now in conjunction with CFLS, transitional housing. As I said, we have a project across the river that we're trying to develop. We have one home that we started with CFLS in February, and we're trying to get another one off the ground. We would love to be able to provide that for more women who are coming home from incarceration, because as Marty said in the beginning, there are just not enough housing opportunities, period, for people who are looking to get started again. So if you live across the river in Ward 7 and would like to help us say yes to a great opportunity for women, please let us know. I will send an email after this to everyone just with a little bit more information about Jubilee and a link to their website, a link to Thrive's website. And if you want to get involved, please let us know. We all have that opportunity. So our time is almost up. I usually try to keep this to just an hour. So Shannon, Karen, I'll give you a chance to say the last words. Is there anything you want to say?
I'd just like to say to those that are present, first of all, thank you for allowing me to be on this panel. Second of all, I would like you guys to please really get involved and help us. Help us help those that we left behind. Help CFLS, Thrive, and Jubilee be able to open these homes so that these men and women will have somewhere to go so that they can become productive parts of society. All we ask is for a chance. And no, everybody's not going to be perfect and everybody's not going to make it, but the mass majority of us, we will. So I just ask that you get involved and you say yes, and you give us the opportunity. Thank you.
And I would like to thank everyone for providing this opportunity. And I second what Karen said. Just say yes. Just saying yes, give us the opportunity. And everybody that's on this call, we have a voice. Let's use our voice, to help push forth efforts to modify and correct a lot of these wrongs that's been going on for so long. In the district, it's primary time. What better time to use your voice? Letting the politicians and those know who write these legislations and these checks that help provide these type of housing to do what's right, for returning citizens, because that's what's needed. Resources. Use your voice. And thank everyone. And thank Thrive, Jubilee Housing for providing this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
I just got one thing to say. For those that are here, if you I want you to check the success rate. Check the success rate of those of us that are coming out of these reentry homes. Just check the success rate. If you check the rate, you'll see this works. It works. Thank you. I ain't gonna say nothing else.
All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate your time. Y'all have a great Friday, great weekend, and we hope to hear from you. Bye, y'all.
Thanks, guys.